This is crime scene investigator Chris G, leading you under the police tape and into a crime scene. Join me as we discuss the ever-changing world of forensic science. Put on your PPE, ready your fingerprint brushes, and experience the drama of a crime scene. Hello everyone and welcome to another podcast. I'm sorry it's been a little while. I've just taken a little break away. We quite sadly lost someone in our office. They passed away quite unexpectedly, so I wasn't really feeling up to doing a podcast for a while. Here's my next podcast since that event, and I thought I'd talk to you today about the types of crime that we deal with. You may notice that I haven't got anyone else with me today. It's just myself, so you're going to have to bear with my voice for a bit. I often like to get little helpers on my podcast to do most of the talking. I can ask the questions, sit back and let them do all the work, but unfortunately I'm having to do the work today. I just thought we'd talk through the types of crime that crime scene investigators will deal with, and hopefully it will give you a kind of little insight in the day-to-day world that we go through. So firstly, we go to an array of different crime types where forensic evidence may assist the investigation or be present. So forensics is there to help explain what occurred and who may have been present at the scene of the crime. So sometimes there are complicated cases where forensics may not play a vital role. So some cases forensics just isn't relevant, such as verbal altercations you might have with your neighbours. We're not really going to go up and swab the faces of you if you've had a verbal altercation with your neighbour. So more often than not, that will be dealt with by a police officer. But even like domestic abuse, where people may live in the same address, it's not impossible for us to get involved in these types of cases. However, there are just some where we're not too useful, really. This could be because our evidence will likely tell you what you already know. So say, for example, going back to that example of a domestic abuse case, it might be that we find the husband's and wife's fingerprints in the room of where the assault took place, in a house that they've lived in for 10 years. So that's not really going to be too crucial, really. That's not going to turn the investigation on its head because we already know that the wife and the husband live at the address. So finding out that information is not really going to take the case forward anymore. So what cases do we get involved in? I hear you all asking on the edge of your seat. I'll start by talking about what we call volume crime. This covers crime like theft, burglary and criminal damage, to name the most common types of volume crime. So burglary is when an intruder enters a premise unlawfully without the permission of the owner. Now, a police officer will often ask some strange questions during their statement taking to like a burglary victim, mainly because they have to, because criminals, like all criminals, will try and find a loophole to get out of the crime. And a common question a police officer will ask is, did you give permission for anyone to break into your home? And now it's easy for us to get involved in burglary cases because you have a person in a place who shouldn't be there. Therefore, if we recover forensic evidence from said place, that person will have to explain why we found it. So, going back to that example where a police officer will ask you if you've given permission to break into your home, of course, if they do have permission, then that will negate any forensics that we kind of find in there. And I'm guessing that question is asked because someone made a little hiccup in a previous investigation a long time ago, and now we're righting a wrong perhaps, and that's why it's asked all the time. So burglary, even though classified as volume crime, will still have a huge impact on the families or business owners. If a shop is broken into, it may have to close until the damage is mended. This could cause a large loss of earnings, meaning staff don't get paid for the day. The damage to repair may cost more than what was stolen and is a huge stress for the shop owner. Similarly, a homeowner may have to live in their home knowing an intruder has been through all their belongings. I've seen a person scrubbing their walls and doors with bleach after being burgled, just unable to cope with the thought of someone being in their protective bubble. A burglar may ransack bedrooms, including children's bedrooms, causing a lot of distress. And I mean, when a child is growing up and developing their own personalities, major events such as burglary could really play a part in their character development. But of course, a burglar may leave behind forensic evidence in a property they shouldn't be in. It could be the point of entry, such as an open window or a door that's been kicked in, or it could be items within the building that have been handled, such as drawers and jewellery boxes. So yeah, we do, even though we classify it as volume crime, we do take burglary very, very seriously, because it can have a huge impact, not just on what they take, but the distress it causes, the nightmares it can give children and adults. We're not immune from it either. And I've seen some people, they've lost tools that they use to work with, and then they'll have to shut down their business because they no longer have the tools to work for that business. So it can be really, really tragic, burglary, and even though, like I said, we classify it as volume crime, I still take it so seriously. So when it comes to theft and criminal damage, these may be a little trickier to deal with sometimes, as forensic opportunities can be quite limited. However, we'll assess these on a case-by-case basis. For example, if someone steals from a shop, the only item they've handled could be what they've taken, or they may have handled a door which the general public are allowed to handle. I could powder that door to try and identify a whole host of people that have been in and out of that shop. And I mean, poor Marjorie, she was only popping in with some milk, and now she's got police officers at her door trying to ask her why she entered the shop. I mean, it just wouldn't be appropriate for us to do that. However, there may be other times where there may be cases of theft where, say, jewellery is stolen from a suspected tradesman or someone like that, and so we look at areas that they shouldn't have been, such as inside of wardrobes and jewellery boxes. So say, for example, if a dodgy salesman or a dodgy tradesman comes round, they shouldn't really be sniffing around your jewellery boxes. It's not somewhere where you'd expect them to be. Not saying that all tradesmen are bad people, because there are so many good ones out there, and yeah. Anywho, we'll now talk about major crime. So some of the crimes we deal with that we classify as major crime are sexual offences, serious assaults, the manufacturing of drugs, arson and fire investigation, kidnap and suspicious death. This isn't a conclusive list of the major crime and volume crime that we deal with. These are just kind of the most common ones that have sprung to my head. There'll probably be some CSIs listening to this thinking, Chris, you've missed this one, and I'm sorry. I probably have. But yeah, these major crime cases, these are the ones where we break out those white suits that you see on TV. We break out the white suits because there is often a higher risk of contamination, say between various link cases that there might be, and also with the sensitive nature of the further examination of work that might be carried out. We might do a lot more kind of expensive and sensitive DNA work on, say, a major crime case than we would a volume crime case. And that's why we have to be extra cautious when wearing a white suit. And also, I think if I turned up to a burglary scene, would the homeowner really want me to enter in a full head-to-toe white overalls with only my eyes showing? That's definitely going to get the neighbours twitching their curtains. So we don't tend to do that for burglary scenes. But previously, I spoke about recovering forensic evidence from a property, like when I was discussing burglaries. But now things change when crimes are committed on a person, such as violence or sexual crime. We now have to start thinking about recovering evidence of a victim or a suspect if one has been arrested. We also will tend to have multiple scenes at a major crime, such as a vehicle a suspect may have fled in, or a property that the suspect went back to. So as you can see, major crimes can really drain our resources. So I'll just give you a little example of a crime, and I want you to estimate how many CSIs may be needed to call upon to deal with this scene. So, a call is made to police at 1 p.m. stating the couple have just been tied up and robbed of their possessions within their home, such as cash and jewellery. The female has minor injuries, but her husband has been transported by ambulance to the hospital. The wife has provided an account that 2 males entered her home and one had a weapon. She managed to see them through the window when they left. She saw them both get into a vehicle and one of them threw a weapon into a neighbour's garden. So that's a little short scenario, but quite a lot to take in. So let's break down the different scenes and the resources that will be required. So straight away initially we'll send a CSI to the home address where the offence occurred. They might be able to recover forensic evidence of the wife while she's at home, or they may call for a colleague to attend. So you could potentially have 2 CSIs at that address. We've also got a poorly husband at hospital. Once medical intervention has finished, another CSI could attend to take forensic samples from the husband in hospital. Now say once medical intervention is finished, of course, like forensics would love us to be able to pick up all the forensic evidence before medical professionals could potentially alter it. However, we never do. Medical intervention always takes priority over any samples that we have. So we'll just do our best to recover what we can after the medical professionals have finished with them. And a separate CSI may be required for the neighbour's garden to recover the weapon. And I say maybe because the CSI who attended the home address could potentially deal with this. However, you might have an issue with cross-contamination going from one scene to the other. So it could be that a separate CSI goes to the neighbour's garden, forensically recovers the weapon, without having to enter the property where these males entered as well. But as the investigation continues, these 2 suspects might be identified. In that case, 2 separate CSIs would be required for each suspect to recover any samples from. And then subsequently you might get a vehicle and any addresses that they may have immediately gone back to. So there you're talking 2 suspects, a vehicle, maybe 1 address, so that's at least 4 CSIs there. So that makes the total count to around 8, I think I make it. So that's quite a lot of CSIs when there may only be, like 5 or 6 on duty that afternoon for say just Sussex. So as you can see that, it might be that one job that we have could potentially eat up all our resources, meaning that we're not able to easily get to, say, volume crime as quickly as we really would like to. So that example hopefully shows you how quickly a case can progress and how draining it can be on resources. So let me just talk about other offences that we can deal with. So when it comes to, say, drug offences, we may look into what evidence has been left behind, say, at a manufacturing factory. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Unfortunately for some, cannabis is illegal in this country and is a Class B drug. And I think I don't know the ins and outs of why it's a Class B drug, but I'd imagine it's mainly because it's manufactured in quite an uncontrolled way. You don't know what's in it half the time, and it's not always produced in the safest method. It wasn't too long ago I went to a cannabis factory where they had say, bypassed the electrics, stolen the neighbour's electrics, and was using all their power. And of course, the neighbours are going to get a huge bill for that. And you also sometimes, quite sadly, have people that are imported into this country against their will and are forced to work at these cannabis factories. So I think, if you know anyone that's smoking cannabis, maybe get them to think about where they think it's come from. It could be that you have a completely innocent person that's being forced against their will to work at these factories. Also, you can have a little quick high, which is why we take the manufacturing of cannabis very, very seriously. And so, we must investigate these crimes. We must try and determine who has set these up, and there is often a whole host of forensic opportunities at these cases. With arson and fire investigation, these require a sort of different yet similar set of skills from us. We'll look to determine, say, where the fire has started, and take forensic example from these areas of severe burning, just to help determine if an accelerant was used. The main difference, however, is, say, sifting through all that rubble to find out what's happened. We might have to get rid of the ceiling that's collapsed onto the floor and trying to put this burnt room back together. And that's all so we can examine, say, the more extreme areas of burning. I say these require a different yet similar set of skills. Most of the time, say, we'll go to a burglary and you can see exactly what's happened. There'll be an open window, there'll be a homeowner there that's saying, yep, this is gone. Whereas, say, with an arson to, say, someone's house that's burnt down, it may be a bit harder for us to determine if someone's broken in, what's been stolen, how it's been set. Has it been an electrical fault? Has it been on purpose? So it requires a different level of thinking, and we'll often need to work backwards. For example, just putting the room back together, so we can try and determine, like, where a chair was, where the sofa was, where the TV was, and then being able to work out where the fire may have originated from. Now, the suspicious death scenes are the types of job that the television companies and authors just love to portray. The kind of whodunit murders where lots of detectives are heavily involved, and there are similarities as to what you see on the television. However, the biggest difference, and my personal favourite, is the ability to tell senior officers they can't just walk into the scenes in their long jackets, like you see Idris Elba doing all the time as Luther and similar characters that you may see on different programmes. So basically, if someone wants to enter the scene of a suspicious death, they will need to be fully suited in our PPE and have a genuine reason for entering. Now, I say that's my favourite difference is because, like, if the chief constable turns up and says, I demand to enter the scene, I'd have to politely say, Ma'am, you need to have a good reason, and you're going to need to dress up like me in one of these suits. So if you're not going to be able to do neither of those, I'm sorry, you can't come in. And this isn't just me being picky. It's literally because we've got a crime scene where the possibility of contamination could really affect the outcome of the case. And of course, we don't want to be the ones that let this investigation and let the families down. So that's the reason why, I'm sorry, Luther, you've got to get dressed in our Socko gear, our CSI suits. Suspicious death scenes, they can be quite draining on resources, just like the other scenes that I've spoken about. You'll often have different people there, such as coroner's officers, undertakers, and multiple agencies if more hazardous things has happened. And going back to, say, fire investigation, we might have to deal with the fire brigade as well. So they will want to determine whether or not the cause of the fire has been accidental or deliberate, so we often work quite closely with them. Now things can get quite challenging when you start having multiple elements to a scene, say such as a fire in a drugs factory, or you might have a sexual element to a suspicious death. So you might be looking to, say, establish why a fire started in a drugs factory, causing danger to neighbouring houses, but whilst also trying to determine who has created the setup. And like I said, you might have a sexual element to a suspicious death, so we might have to, say, break out the UV lights to look for bodily fluids when in other suspicious deaths we might not be doing so. So yeah, we've got a lot of skills that we can offer to every single offence that I've mentioned, and there'll always be an assessment as to what skills are required against the information that we have at the time. So this is often referred to a forensic strategy, and a forensic strategy is, say, a document that we'll make for each serious offence just to make sure no opportunities are missed. So this will often be in discussion with the Senior Investigating Officer, or SIO, you may have heard being referenced in, say, various TV programmes. And this will kind of be an agreement as to what we can do at a scene, and it will be listed off and given to the CSI so they know what kind of examination they need to do on a kind of case-by-case basis. So yeah, I hope this has given you a little idea on the types of crime that we get involved with, and how sometimes resources can be quite thin on the ground. If we're not able to get to you, say if you've been burgled, I hope this has given you an insight as to why. It's not that we don't want to, because like I said, we take burglary so seriously, and it's something that, yeah, it's close to my heart, because I've been doing this for like 11 years, and burglary is kind of like our most common crime that we'll go to. And yeah, I see lots of people kind of suffer from burglary, and they suffer in different ways, but yeah, everyone suffers from it. And I can see like the damage that it leaves behind. So yeah, as times have changed, and we've been cut back, so we don't have as many staff as we used to. Sometimes it can be a little harder to get to you as quickly as we can. However, I hope that's given you kind of an idea as to why. It's not you, it's them, the criminals. They're the ones that are to blame for all this. However, I really hope you found this interesting, kind of getting to know, just in short, the types of crime that I will cover. Please let me know if you like this or not, I guess. Always open to constructive criticism, I might add. I'm on Twitter at CSI Chris G, that's GEE. And yeah, keep following my podcast. I hope to kind of update you more frequently on my life as a crime scene investigator. And well, if you didn't find this interesting, listen to me for say 20-25 minutes. I'll get another guest in, and you won't have to listen to me chatting for all this time. Anyway, to those of you who have stayed to the end, thank you so much, and I hope you listen to me soon again. Thank you. This is crime scene investigator Chris G signing off. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed listening. Be sure to subscribe and follow my social media at CSI Chris G. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the next crime scene.